The atmosphere at the 2026 MotoGP Catalunya Grand Prix turned intense almost immediately as major drama unfolded just seconds after the race began. Before the riders could even complete the first corner, a terrifying incident had already shaken the track. Francesco Bagnaia suffered a horrific crash after making contact with Johann Zarco and Luca Marini at Turn 1 of the 2026 Catalunya GP. The moment instantly created tension throughout the paddock and shocked MotoGP fans around the world, especially because it happened right after the starting lights went out. So what exactly caused Francesco Bagnaia's horror crash at Turn 1 of the 2026 Catalunya GP? Let's discuss. Even during the warm-up lap, the tension surrounding the race was already extremely high. The riders understood that positioning into the first corner would be crucial, especially at Catalunya, a circuit known for its heavy braking zone after the main straight. Every rider knew that losing momentum in the opening sector could seriously hurt their chances of finishing at the front. That's why, from the very beginning, everyone looked prepared to take huge risks in order to secure the best possible position. When the starting lights finally went out, the entire field launched aggressively toward Turn 1. Bagnaia had a fairly strong start in the opening phase. The Ducati rider accelerated quickly and appeared determined to hold his place among the front group. With confidence, he chose the inside racing line in an attempt to close the gap and secure the entry into the corner. However, the situation changed dramatically within seconds. From another side, Zarco came charging in at high speed while trying to take almost the same racing line. At the same time, Marini was positioned extremely close behind them and had virtually no room to manoeuvre. With the pack still tightly bunched together, all three riders entered the braking zone almost simultaneously. In such a fast-moving situation, slight contact became unavoidable. The bikes of the three riders touched as they entered the hard braking area for Turn 1. Even though it looked like only minor contact, the consequences were immediate and massive. The balance of the motorcycles was disrupted, and the situation instantly turned chaotic. Bagnaia became the first rider to lose control. His Ducati was thrown offline and slid a considerable distance across the track area. Moments later, Zarco and Marini were also dragged into the runoff area after running out of space to save their bikes. The incident became one of the most terrifying moments at the start of the race, as the riders approaching from behind had to react incredibly quickly to avoid a much larger collision. Several riders were seen suddenly changing their racing lines, while others had to run slightly wide to avoid the bikes scattered across the track. The situation nearly turned into a massive chain reaction crash before the marshals reacted quickly to secure the incident area. Yellow flags immediately became a major concern, while everyone's attention shifted to the condition of the riders involved. For Francesco Bagnaia, this crash felt like a devastating and painful blow. The Ducati rider arrived in Catalunya carrying a major mission, securing crucial points to keep his 2026 World Championship hopes alive. In fact, Bagnaia's performance throughout the weekend had looked extremely promising. From the free practice sessions to qualifying, he consistently showed competitive race pace and strong rhythm. His Ducati appeared increasingly stable, especially during race pace simulations, leading many to believe that Bagnaia was ready to fight once again at the front and put pressure on his main championship rivals. But all of those hopes were destroyed within seconds after the race started. The horror incident at Turn 1 instantly erased Bagnaia's chances of scoring major points before the opening lap was even completed. The situation was naturally a huge setback for Ducati, especially since Catalunya had been predicted as one of the key rounds for closing the gap in the championship standings. After returning to the paddock, Bagnaia's facial expression clearly showed deep disappointment and frustration. He was seen repeatedly having serious discussions with the Ducati crew and engineers while reviewing replays of the incident from multiple camera angles in an effort to fully understand what had actually happened during the chaos at Turn 1. On the other hand, Zarco was also unable to hide his frustration. The French rider had actually shown very promising pace throughout the entire weekend. His speed from the free practice sessions all the way to qualifying created optimism that he could fight for a top 5 finish. However, That opportunity was destroyed before the race had even truly developed. Marini found himself in an equally difficult situation. The Italian rider was in an extremely complicated position when the incident occurred. With very limited space and motorcycles packed tightly around him, there was almost no way to avoid contact. He briefly tried to maintain the bike's stability under heavy braking, but the situation ahead changed too quickly, making the collision nearly impossible to avoid. Shortly after the incident, replays of the crash immediately sparked heated debates across the paddock and social media. Many fans tried to analyse who was most responsible for the accident. Some believed Bagnaia was too aggressive while defending the inside line into the corner, while others felt Zarco entered the turn with excessive speed, leaving Bagnaia with almost no room to manoeuvre. Marini's position, trapped in the middle of the pack, made the situation even more impossible to escape. MotoGP analysts explained that incidents like this are very common at Turn 1, especially on the opening lap when all the riders are still bunched together and tyre temperatures have not yet reached their ideal operating window. In those conditions, the bikes do not have maximum grip, while every rider is desperately fighting to gain the best position as quickly as possible. As a result, the risk of contact becomes significantly higher compared to the later laps. Ducati course general manager Gigi Dall'Igna looked extremely disappointed after watching his star rider fail to continue the race just seconds after the start. In a brief paddock interview, Dall'Igna admitted the incident was a major blow for Ducati because Bagnaia had strong potential to achieve a huge result in Catalunya. This is a very unfortunate crash because Pecco had extremely competitive pace throughout the entire weekend. We worked very hard to find the best setup for the race, and everything looked ready. Losing the opportunity at the very first corner is obviously very painful for the team, said Dall'Igna. He also emphasised that incidents like this are incredibly difficult to avoid when all the riders enter the first corner at the same time with such close spacing. Meanwhile, Davide Tardozzi appeared far more emotional when discussing the incident. He admitted his frustration because Ducati lost a golden opportunity to secure crucial points in the 2026 MotoGP World Championship battle. Pecco is very angry and disappointed, and that's completely normal. Everyone in the garage feels the same way because we know how big his chances were today. It's very hard to accept when the race is over before the first lap is even completed, said Tardozzi. This crash is expected to have a major impact on the 2026 championship standings. Bagnaia's failure to score points opens the door for his rivals to extend their advantage in the fight for the world title. The pressure on the reigning world champion is now becoming even greater, as every race weekend is starting to feel crucial during this highly competitive stage of the season. In your opinion, who was most responsible for the horror crash involving Francesco Bagnaia, Johan Zarco, and Luca Marini at Turn 1 of the 2026 Catalunya GP? Write your opinion in the comments below